teruskan dengan bradyarrhythmia. Okay, first sinus bradycardia. Any heart rate yang less than 60 beat per minute, we call bradycardia. And usually, if P wave associated with QRS complex, we call it a sinus rhythm. So it's a sinus bradycardia. As you can see the ECG on the screen. And then usually if more than 40 beat per minute and patient with no symptom, so no treatment is required. So we have to look for the causes of bradycardia. Causes of sinus bradycardia usually myocardial infarction, sinus node disease, or we call sick sinus syndrome, hypothermia, hypothyroidism, cholestatic jaundice also can cause sinus bradycardia, raised intracardial pressure, or drugs, usually beta blocker. If rate less than 40 beat per minute and patient have symptom, so we give IV atropine, usually 0.6 to 1.2 milligram, but maximum 3 milligram. If persistent the symptom, so pacemaker implantation should be considered. Okay, we move on to AV block. AV block is there is a delay or complete interruption between the atria and the ventricle, the conduction. So we further classify into first degree, second degree, and third degree AV block. First degree heart block, when there is a delay between the connection P wave dengan QRS. So usually PR interval is more than 0.2 second. Normal PR interval is 0.12 to 0.2. So usually 3 to 5 small boxes. So if PR interval more than 5 boxes, small boxes, we call it first degree heart block. And the PR interval is constant. Every P wave there is a followed by QRS complex. Second degree heart block divide into two, Mobitz type 1 and Mobitz type 2. In second degree heart block, there is a drop beat, or we call there is a missing QRS complex. In Mobitz, the difference is Mobitz type 1, the PR interval is gradually prolonged until P wave does not conduct to the ventricle. But in Mobitz type 2, the PR interval is not prolonged, it's fixed. Mobitz type 1, or we other name Wenckebach phenomenon, there is a progressive lengthening of PR interval followed by P wave that is not conducted. As you can see in the ECG, the PR interval become more longer, and then there is a missing QRS complex. Usually typically due to high vagal tone and also usually narrow QRS complex unless bundle branch block exists. In Mobitz type 2, there is a fixed PR interval. PR interval in the ECG is constant, and there's no warning, suddenly no QRS complex, unpredictable non-conduction of P wave, most likely infranoidal in origin, hence associated with widened QRS complex. This type of Mobitz type 2 has risk of deteriorating into complete heart block. This is different between Mobitz type 1 and also Mobitz type 2, where there is a PR elongation, and Mobitz type 2, PR interval is constant. Okay, third degree heart block, which is complete heart block, there is a dissociation between P wave and the QRS complex. The atria and the ventricles, it beats independently. In this ECG, there's no relationship between P wave and the QRS complex. And also the PP and P interval, PP interval and RR interval relatively constant.
Okay, faham tak? Sorry ya, Syafira. Faham tak apa maksud dia P dan R dia tidak bersama lah. Maksudnya P buat hal dia, R buat R dia. Tapi apa yang korang faham, PP punya interval is constant, RR punya interval is constant. Cuma P dengan R tu tidak berganding bahu lah, tak bersama lah, tak ada kaitan. So that's why you see some of the P mungkin embedded dekat R, sometimes they embedded dekat T. Tapi if you actually measure the distance between PP, it's constant, and RR pun constant. So this is third degree heart block lah. Okay, carry on.
Bradycardia, macam tachycardia, kita divide by stable and unstable. So bila bradycardia, patient datang dengan simptom, ada persistent bradycardia causing the hypotension, altered mental status, sign of shock, ischemic chest discomfort and acute heart failure. So we call unstable bradycardia. But bradycardia without symptom we call stable. So this is algorithm for adult bradycardia. When patient come with bradycardia, first ABCD lah, like the tachycardia part. We maintain the patent airway, give oxygen if patient hypoxemic, and attach patient to the cardiac monitor, monitor the blood pressure, then insert Branula for IV access, then we obtain the 12-lead ECG. Then we find out the symptom, sign and symptom. Ask patient if there is a chest pain for ischemic chest discomfort, or auscultate lung for acute heart failure. Look for any sign of shock, cool peripheries. Also assess the GCS for altered mental status, and if there is any symptom and signs, so unstable bradycardia, so we can start atropine. Atropine IV dose. First dose we give 0.5 mg bolus, and then we repeat every 3 to 5 minutes, but maximum 3 milligram. Then if atropine is not effective, then we can continue with transcutaneous pacing, or other drug that can be used is IV dopamine and also IV epinephrine.
Okay, jap sebelum Shafira pergi away from this. Okay, algorithm untuk bradycardia is very simple. Tengok patient datang, ABC, yada-yada. Lepas tu, what you need to determine if patient stable or unstable. Stable patient buat apa? Monitor and observe. Find underlying cause. Tak perlu pening-pening. Unstable, this is the management. Saya kata senang kenapa? Sebab you don't even need to recognize rhythm apa. It doesn't change your management. You just need to know it's bradycardia. Kan? Tak perlu sebenarnya tengok ECG, second degree, third degree, fourth degree dan sebagainya. You know it's bradycardia. If it's stable, monitor and observe. Maksud monitor and observe tu find the underlying cause lah. Okay. But if patient unstable, management is the same for any rhythm yang menyebabkan bradycardia. Tapi apa yang membezakan orang yang bijak dengan orang yang so-so ni, kalau awak boleh recognize rhythm, awak boleh skip a few step. Atropine ni, it's only effective for load. Atropine, dia tak efektif for high degree blocks. High degree blocks ni merujuk kepada second degree heart block and above. Faham? So maksudnya first degree heart block bukan high degree block, second degree type 1 tu pun bukan high degree block, tapi second degree type 2 tu, Morbitz 2 tu is considered high degree block. So atropine is not effective in high degree blocks. So if you able to read the rhythm and you tahu rhythm tu third degree heart block ke, Morbitz 2 ke, then you can skip the atropine. You save lah dalam 15 minit kot. Then you can terus pergi kepada treatment pacing or dopamine or epinephrine or adrenaline lah. Itu je advantage kalau you boleh baca rhythm tu lah in terms of management patient bradycardia. Kalau patient stable, monitor and observe, look for underlying cause. So, apa most common cause patient bradycardia yang awak tengok kat ED? You know, banyak-banyak patient MyED ni kan, the most common, by far the most common cause for bradycardia, patient datang kat ED. Anyone can answer, bukan Shafira seorang je. Hopefully by the time ni saya ingatlah nama Shafira. Ya?
Yeah? Dia ambil beta blocker drugs.
Okay, beta blocker. Okay, satu lagi? Yang most common, yang menyebabkan patologi lah biasanya, yang menyebabkan patient become unstable, ada symptoms. Beta blocker, yes, overdose of beta blocker. Yang satu lagi most common.
MI doktor?
Not so much. Dia tak ada kaitan dengan jantung pun sebenarnya. Tapi patient ni selalu datang and bradycardia. Patient dialisis dia selalu dapat apa?
Diagnosis.
Hyperkalemia.
Excellent, Aimi. Hyperkalemia, if patient end stage renal failure presents to you with bradycardia, even if you can't read the rhythm, the most common cause is hyperkalemia, and that is treatable. Okay, because selagi you tak correct the hyperkalemia, you bagilah atropine ke, pacing ke, bagi dopamine ke, it's not gonna resolve. You need to correct the hyperkalemia. Sebab hyperkalemia dia ada associated rhythm lah, dipanggil junctional rhythm. Tapi dalam konteks katalah macam tengok nampak bradycardia je, tak reti nak interpret kan. Lepas tahu pula patient ni macam on dialysis, miss dialysis 3 hari dah. Then you need to start considering hyperkalemia. You need to correct the potassium. Of course, kalau patient tak stable, you still go with your dopamine, pacing dan sebagainya. Tapi kena consider, kena have it at the back of your mind lah. Sebab tu penting tanya history dialysis miss berapa kali ke, or on any medication that cause hyperkalemia ke. And of course beta blocker lah. Beta blocker tak banyak benda lah kita boleh buat. It's just that monitor and observe lah, and of course the usual treatment for bradycardia lah. So bradycardia ni is a lot simpler than tachyarrhythmia, because satu ialah in terms of rhythm recognition it's not as important, tapi you need to know your management in detail lah. Okay, carry on.
This is ada algorithm of bradycardia. Sama juga, first maintain airway, oxygen, ECG, IV access, and also ask for the sign. Cuma yang ni ada reversible cause of bradycardia 6H5T, hypovolemia, hypoxia, hydrogen ion, hyperkalemia, hypoglycemia, hypothermia.
HNTs ni memang kena ingat kena masuk dekat your punya spine lah, spinal reflex semua. Satu soalan semua orang suka tanya. Dan yang kedua, in the event of you nak buat you tengah buat CPR ke apa, these are the thing that you need to specifically look for, because these are reversible punya causes. So if you tak correct this, patient will refractory cardiac arrest lah, tak resolve. Sama macam bradycardia dia, selagi you tak correct all this, patient will probably duk bradycardia lah, tak selesai kan. Okay, so HNTs ni memang kena ingat lah. It's something that you have to specifically look for in patient yang brady, yang arrested. Okay, ini kira memang bread and butter lah, kena ingat lah. Nanti semua orang suka tanya juga benda ni. So assessment ke apa ke, so soalan bocor lah. Okay. Tadi yang transcutaneous pacing tu, kotak transcutaneous pacing tu senyap je. Tak baca pun.
Yang tu ni.
Oh, nak cerita. Oh, okey. Cerita.
Transcutaneous pacing ni dia just temporary cardiac pacing. Usually kita guna gel pad dekat externally to the chest. We have two position, A dengan B. A yang duduk kat anterior, satu kat bawah right clavicle, satu lagi dekat apex. Kalau B, satu anterior, satu dekat belakang, kat posterior. Ini machine defib yang kita ada dekat ED. Semua ni ada pacer punya option.
Okay, jap. Stay kat gambar ni. Mana pacer punya option dia, boleh tunjuk tak? Button pacer dia ke? Okay.
Ni pacer.
Okay, dah halang-halang kat sini, tunjuk button sync. Kotlah Anis. Okay, kalau nak buat synchronous version, button ni korang kena tekan sampai lampu tu nyala. This is for LifePak 20 lah. Zol punya machine is different. Tapi Zol punya machine, pacer dia rasanya tersembunyi sikit. So kadang-kadang you have to be careful. Some machine dia ada pacer punya mode, tapi pacer dia kadang tersembunyi di belakang flap lah. You kena buka.
Zol punya yang ni tak?
Zol yang dia tulis Zol lah. Ni mesin apa ni? Ni Zol lah. Zol ni kan, perasan tak? Pacer dia tu dia ada flap bawah tu. Bila you masukkan ke pacer je baru dia terbuka. Okay, so cuba cerita sikit. Pacer, kalau awak perasan, pacer, tengok both machine LifePak dengan mesin Zol tadi, dia ada rate dan current. Cuba pergi kat Zol tu, dia ada output dan rate. Output ni current dia lah. So these are the two settings for pacing. Bagus. Sebelum ni orang tak pernah buat gambar benda-benda lah ni kan. Bagus. Okay. So, teruskan.
Yang ni pun ada cakap Mason David ni dekat
Ni yang
recipe
Felix
zone.
punya lah. Okay.
Yang ni pun ada pacer option.
Yes.
So kalau nak guna benda ni, first kita explain prosedur dekat patient.
Okay.
So then kita pre-oxygenate and give sedation lah.
Okay.
Selalunya kalau guna untuk pacer punya function, kita akan sambung dengan pad instead of selalunya di FIP ada pedal. So kalau
dia
patient
bukan memang kena pakai pad kalau nak pacer. Dia tak ada option pakai pedal. Sebab takkanlah awak 6 jam nak menekan pedal tu kat dada patient. Memang tak ada option untuk pedal. Memang kena pakai pad. And pacer punya pad is different from defibrillation punya pad. So jangan ingat defibrillation punya pad is pacer punya pad. No. Setiap mesin ni kalau nak pakai dia punya pacing function, kena minta pacer punya pad je daripada biasanya simpan penyelia lah. So kena minta pacer punya pad. Kena be clear. Sebab kalau minta pad nanti dia bagi defibrillation punya pad, then you wonder why your pacing doesn't work lah. Okay, so dia ada pacer punya pad. Okay, carry on.
Kemudian kita ada, we have 3 things to set.
Okay.
First mode, we have 2 mode, demand mode and also fixed mode. But for this machine, kita ada demand mode, memang dah set to demand mode.
Apa beza demand dengan fixed mode?
Kalau fixed mode, dia deliver fixed number of beats regardless of patient punya heart rate. Tapi kalau demand mode, dia deliver bila patient heart rate tu falls below the set value.
Okay, excellent. So maksudnya kalau kita set 60, fixed mode will give 60 spikes lah. 60 pacing spikes regardless of heart rate you berapa. Demand mode, your machine will analyze your rhythm dulu. If your rhythm below fall below 60, then baru dia bagi pacing spike. Dalam konteks kita kat emergency department, it doesn't really matter whether you put fixed or demand. It doesn't really make any difference. Tapi I would recommend you to put patient in fixed mode. Sebab you just nak ensure that patient akan dapat 60 spikes regardless. Kadang-kadang, you know our machine lah, kadang-kadang pad punya contact tak bagus. Then sometimes mesin tu misread the rhythm dan sebagainya. Just put patient in fixed mode. Okay? Okay, lepas tu?
Okay, second thing that we have to set is the heart rate. Yang dekat tengah-tengah tu ada beat per minute, 90 beat per minute tu.
Yes.
Usually we set to normal heart rate. Human usually 60, so we set to 60 first.
You set to around 60 to 70 lah. Pilih lah ikut. Suka nombor ganjil 70, suka nombor genap 60, 60 to 70. It's not really macam strict lah. Okay, carry on.
Then beside the heart rate, kita kena set adalah current. Current yang MA tu kita boleh set.
Bukan MA, milliampere. 20 milliampere. Unit dia. The current kita boleh increase gradually sampai kita nampak bukan boleh increase gradually, kena increase gradually.
Kena increase. Sampai nampak electrical capture dekat rhythm, dekat screen.
Cuba explain kat kawan-kawan apa maksud electrical capture.
Electrical capture.
Tak ada. Tak apa. Explain. Tak apa. Tak ada contoh, tak apa. Explain.
Electrical capture tu bila ada pacing spike, kita kena note ada pacing spike. Maksudnya impulse tu being delivered lah to the patient.
Syafira ada gambar pacing spike? Tak ada. Tak ada, tak apa. Sebab kadang-kadang just make sure semua orang boleh tengok pacing spike tu rupa dia macam mana. Kalau tak ada pacing spike tu, dia akan nampak macam satu garis lurus. Dekat cardiac monitor tu, dia akan nampak satu garis lurus. Tak ada, tak apa. Just balik ke ni. So akan nampak pacing spike. Okay, electrical capture. Nampak pacing spike.
Bila nampak pacing spike, lepas pacing spike ada followed by QRS complex dengan T wave. So yang tu
QRS
adalah
complex ni tu macam mana?
broad QRS complex dengan T-wave.
So jangan expect nampak normal QRS complex. So lepas pacing spike, if ada electrical capture, lepas setiap pacing spike tu akan ada QRS complex. Tapi QRS complex tu dia tak normal. Dia broad. And dia kadang-kadang nampak macam bundle branch block punya QRS complex. Electrical capture, after pacing spike, you dapat this broad QRS complex. Okay, tu baru kata electrical capture. Okay, dah dapat electrical capture?
Lepas sampai electrical capture, kita kena check untuk mechanical capture.
Okay.
Mechanical capture kita boleh detect macam, boleh check melalui pulses. Pulses usually dekat femoral pulses lah.
Kenapa tak check dekat carotid?
Sebab selalunya kalau pulses impulse yang diberi daripada mesin tu akan menyebabkan contraction of the muscle. So kita boleh confuse sama ada tu pulses ke
betul
muscle. So kita pilih femoral.
Okay. So kalau kata dah ada electrical capture tapi pulse yang rasa dekat femoral tu baru 30. So what do you do? Dah habis. Sorry. Sekarang dah dapat electrical capture, agree?
Yeah.
So, lepas tu bila feel for mechanical capture dekat femoral, heart rate yang dekat pulse tu rasa 30. So, what do you need to do?
Kita kena ubah pad dia tak?
Bukan. Increase lah energy. Maksudnya energy tu baru cukup untuk electrical capture. So you need to increase the energy sampai dapat mechanical capture. So maksudnya awak kena naikkan lah. Katalah daripada 20 ni kan, naikkan sampai 60. Dah dapat electrical capture. Tapi bila rasa pulse dekat femoral, baru 30. So you need to increase the energy further kepada say tadi 60 kan, 80 ataupun 100 until you get mechanical capture. Then you dah dapat lah electrical capture dan mechanical capture. Okay, so lepas tu dah dapat electrical capture, mechanical capture.
So yang current time tu adalah threshold untuk dapatkan pulse macam tu. Then kita boleh tengok yang ada vital sign macam BP.
So dah dapat electrical capture, dah dapat mechanical capture, then you need to increase the energy by satu senggatan for safety margin. Kena naikkan sikit lagi. Kalau dah 100 tu dah dapat mechanical capture, then you need to increase by to 110 or 120 milliampere for safety margin. Then lepas tu baru you tengok lah whether ada improvement in vital signs or not. By right, patient punya BP or general condition should improve lah. Tapi katalah BP still low, dah dapat electrical capture, mechanical capture, BP still low, what do you need to do? Siapa-siapa yang lain yang ada boleh jawab, tak ada masalah. This is the time where you nak increasekan rate. Katalah tadi you start 60, now you naikkanlah jadi 70. Sebab cardiac output sama dengan stroke volume times heart rate kan. So sekarang you dah dapat so sekarang lepas dah buat ni BP still low, maksudnya one of the ways for you to increase the cardiac output is increase lah the heart rate. So kalau tadi start dengan 60, buatlah jadi 70 or 80. So then you macam tu lah. Dan you buat macam tu lah. Dan hopefully BP akan pick up lah. Okay. So sebab tu kena tahu apa cardiac output tu is a product of heart rate times stroke volume dan sebagainya. Then of course treat lah the underlying cause. Kalau patient under volume, mungkin nak kena bagi fluid sikit dan sebagainya. Okay. Ini pacing tapi remember, this is temporary measure. Transcutaneous pacing shouldn't be used for more than 24 hours because it's very uncomfortable for the patient lah. Just imagine you kena current kan 60 kali seminit, sakit lah. So that's why you need to explain to patient, you need to give analgesia and sedation. And hopefully patient masuk, primary team akan insert, kalau kat sini medical akan insert transvenous pacing. Transvenous pacing ni dia macam both central line lah, tapi slightly a bit more complicated sikit. Then later if persistent, then patient need a more permanent solution lah, which is permanent pacemaker. Okay, katalah, I'm sure lepas ni akan beginilah, katalah pacemaker tak ada, pacing punya machine tak ada, what are your options? Okay, teruskanlah Syafira. Dah habis kan pasal pacemaker. So saya harap semua orang clear lah, sebab jarang kita buat pacing ni, transcutaneous pacing, tapi at least in theory everybody should know lah, should be able to describe how to do transcutaneous pacing and be familiar dengan mesin-mesin yang ada dekat ED lah. Mesin mana yang boleh buat pacing, mesin mana yang tak boleh pacing. Dia skip Kalau tak nak buat pacing, you got the option of tadi dopamine dan adrenaline kan. Dia all semua. Doesn't mean that first line pacing, second line dopamine, second line epinephrine. Most commonly people akan start dengan inotropes lah, dopamine or epinephrine or adrenaline. Kenapa dopamine is first line for bradycardia? Anyone can answer lah. Kita dah nak habis ni. Sekejap lagi. Syafira lah, nampak Syafira je yang berespon. So, kenapa dopamine? Why dopamine is first line?
Pasti.
Okay, because dopamine punya side effect is tachycardia. How dopamine increase cardiac output, how dopamine function cardiac output, one of the ways is dia menyebabkan tachycardia. So kan, cardiac output equals to stroke volume times heart rate kan. So since it increase heart rate, dia ada positive chronotropic effect. So dia increase cardiac output. So in patient yang bradycardia, so you bagi dopamine, patient become a bit more tachy lah. Okay. So if dopamine doesn't work, the next option is adrenaline. Why not noradrenaline? Kenapa adrenaline bukan noradrenaline? Kita kan suka guna NOAD kan, untuk semua benda kita bagi NOAD kan. So why in patient bradycardia, instead of noradrenaline, kita terus ke adrenaline? Siapa yang ada ni? Liana Zayani ada ke? Nur Farihah ke? Hazmi ke? Cut Kartika ke? Tak, Syafira je lah jawab.
Sebab reseptor dia tu.
Kenapa dengan reseptor dia? What's the primary function? How does noradrenaline works as a inotrope? Or kalau orang putih panggil dia, noradrenaline ni adalah vasopressor. It's in the name. NOAD cause systemic vasoconstriction. So it doesn't have any effect on the heart. How NOAD brings up your heart BP is by causing systemic vasoconstriction. So that's why NOAD is very good in sepsis. Patient sepsis kan ada systemic vasodilatation. So you bagi NOAD, so dia akan vasoconstrict lah. So BP dia akan go up. Tapi in patient tapi bila bercakap patient bradycardia, it doesn't have any effect lah, sebab it doesn't have direct effect on the heart. Adrenaline on the other hand, they acts on both receptors kan. It causes vasoconstriction, but it also have a direct effect on the heart lah, chronotropic effect on the heart, yang menyebabkan patient tachycardia. Receptor lah, alpha, beta, whatever lah kan, korang ingat lagi lah. So dia act both on, dia ada direct effect on the heart and on the vessel. That's why it's not, noradrenaline tak masuk dalam list for bradycardia. It's dopamine first line. If you don't have dopamine or patient doesn't respond to dopamine, adrenaline lah. Okay. So simple je bradycardia ni. Patient okay, monitor lah. Patient tak okay, then you really only got macam few treatment je. Two drugs sahaja, dopamine and adrenaline, or transcutaneous pacing. So nanti kalau assessment, Dr. Ati ke siapa ke tanya pasal transcutaneous pacing, harapnya boleh describe lah. Okay? Any questions? Siapa-siapa lagi ada questions? Kalau ada orang lagi? Tak ada? So tak ada? Okey lah, habis dah lah. Okay, thank you everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Doktor.
Okay, thank you. Oh, masa thank you ramai pula menjawab. Masa tanya soalan semua diam je. Oh, macam ni ya. Okay lah. Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, kesian Syafira.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Bye.